DNVR Broncos live on a Friday, coming to you from Studio A, where the A stands for A+.
I think that's what it stands for.
That's more of an E. Today we're grading the coaching staff.
I guess if you wanted to take a positive spin, you could have said, "Hey."
I've done that one before.
And we haven't. Neither of us did that. Maybe not the best sign?
True, actually.
Not a great sign. We're grading the coaching staff today. That's why I used a grade. And we are also presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. So get over to DraftKings Sportsbook. Bet on anything. Just about anything.
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 Jokic triple-double, Jokic to win.
Yes.
All cash.
He's just the best.
I literally parlayed Nuggets to win, Jokic triple-double last night. Went ham on it.
What even odds
Cashed
did you
in.
get for that?
Plus 260.
That is just so pathetic how bad the odds are for something that should be very difficult.
Yeah, but it's also, how many games have they played? Like 60-ish?
Yeah.
So one out of
55.
every 3 games,
Yeah.
Oh, after 55, yeah.
Nikola Jokic has a triple-double and the Nuggets win.
Yep. And 22-0.
Yep,
he
exactly.
does that.
And he never loses.
That's
they
crazy.
never lose.
Yeah, so I guess you kind of have to get better odds for that to make sense. But I just did it last night and it worked.
But 1 for 1.
Yeah,
You can't complain.
Exactly. So anyways, get over to DraftKings Sportsbook, use the code DNVR. Okay.
Ryan, before you go any further,
Yeah.
are you wearing that CU shirt in honor of the Broncos' new defensive coordinator, Vance Joseph? Because Henry and I gave our thoughts.
Oh,
Very
that's right.
different thoughts yesterday. You weren't on. So before you take this conversation anywhere, I got to get your thoughts on VJ being back in the Mile High City.
Real quick, do you guys notice that we're way further forward today?
We
No,
are.
I actually didn't.
We are.
I figured it was.
What the
on
hell,
purpose.
Yaya?
Yaya doesn't ever make accidents.
Yaya
Oh.
wants to make me seem bigger, so I appreciate that.
I feel like very close. to
Wow.
everything.
I actually was taking a course on how to make the set look better.
Oh.
Making it depth is one thing that really helps, and I'm trying to push it forward.
Yes.
You guys can see the screen and make everything look a
I
lot.
Who was
like
giving you the
it.
course?
None of your fucking business.
Oh, spicy!
I think that means Dre.
One other piece of housekeeping that I need to get to
Oh,
before
no.
I give that take is Henry almost didn't go to the combine. So
Wow.
yeah, he was the last one out of all city participants to put in his thing. I got an email saying, like right before I went to go see if Henry had done it, I got an email saying like, time's up. One of your credentials isn't assigned.
Oh no! Oh no!
Oh, no.
Did you figure it out?
Yeah, I had to email him saying we have one more. I think he just put his stuff in.
This has been just to give everyone a little behind the scenes look. A spicy morning. You hear clearly a little spicy.
Yep.
He is
Ryan
spicy.
walks in. The reason we were late. Ryan walks in 2 minutes late. I say delay a game on you, Ryan, and he immediately shoots back. Well, if it wasn't for Henry, if he did his stuff, I wouldn't have been late. So shots all around. Pew,
Bang, bang, bang.
pew,
I had no
pew.
idea there was something to fill out.
You were notified. You just didn't read.
I wasn't notified in DNVR. I was notified in All City, and I don't check that one.
Yesterday,
Well, that's the
yesterday was a
problem.
spicy pod between Henry and I. Now we got
That
4
was
people
spicy.
spicy. I can't wait to see where this goes.
All right. This is underwhelming. It's an underwhelming hire.
Yep.
Wow.
And it's I don't know. Here's where I am. I have the buff shirt on. I wasn't thinking of Vance Joseph when I put this on. But like as a buff, I am cheering for Vance Joseph.
Yeah, of course.
I want him to have all the success in the world. And just as a person, you know, who I've met and spent time around, obviously, when he was a coach and even, you know, before he was actually coaching games, had known Vance Joseph a little bit. So I am hoping he has the utmost success here.
Yeah.
I feel as though he is, I don't know if the word is set up for failure. He's coming into a really difficult situation where he already has negative leash with the fans.
Yeah.
Like, this has to be the worst received hire in all of pro football this year.
And I took it a step in a different direction yesterday. I said, since my time covering the league, maybe my time just being fan too, my 30 years, this is the most negative I've seen a coach received with the Broncos being a head coach or an assistant coach. Because, Ryan, typically when you hire someone, everyone just loves it because it's like, well, we're just going to give him the benefit of the doubt for 6 months until he proves us wrong on the field. What, 50%, if not more, of the fan base does not like this move the moment it was made.
Yeah, and so I tweeted out yesterday just saying I'm surprised he wanted the gig because the dynamic with the fans is going to be kind of ugly if anything goes wrong, right? He's already essentially going to be the scapegoat for anything that goes wrong on defense. Someone blows a coverage, Vance Joseph's fault.
Right.
And so then someone and I was like, I'm not looking forward to that dynamic. Someone tweeted at me well, if you're not looking forward to the dynamic, why are you already pushing it? I'm like, I'm not pushing it. It is here.
Right.
It's already arrived. It happened the second the news came out. Everyone was mad. So I worry just about the environment. In the truth of it is I would love to sit up here and say everyone, you got to be nice to Vance Joseph. It's just not going to do anything. They're not going to be. And maybe not it's our community, but it's just the Broncos fan base as a whole is not going to be nice to Vance Joseph. Then I watched the clip of him on Hard Knocks. Did you guys see it?
I did.
I didn't watch that one.
Man, and it almost I almost got teary-eyed watching it because he's talking about what an honor it was to be the head coach of the Denver Broncos and how Colorado is home to him and all this stuff. And I'm just man, that is tough. And now I understand why he wanted the job. He's coming home.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But he's coming home to a toxic environment, at least from what I can see, right? Obviously, the people who are mad are usually loudest. And I think there's certainly people in my mention saying, hey, let's give him a chance. Let's support VJ, et cetera, et cetera. But it feels like 80-20, 90-10 negative reaction to this. So that's a part of it. And then the other part of it is just the facts, which is that Vance Joseph has not been a great defensive coordinator in the NFL. You could, Henry was, I saw him in the Madden chat sharing stat after stat last night about why he's not as bad as people think he is. And so I think you can make the case that he is a average defensive coordinator, not necessarily a bad defensive coordinator, but it hasn't happened yet for me to say he's good to great on that side of the ball.
Exactly.
So you combine all that stuff together, and the word I use is underwhelming. I will be rooting for him. I'm going to give him leash. I'm not going to be, pushing the thing, Vance Joseph. But, first quarter, first game, a tight end catches a ball for 15 yards. Fans are losing their minds. And I just find it to be an odd decision from that standpoint, in addition to the uninspiring stats that surround his defensive coordinator's history.
You lay it out really well, and kind of playing on the underwhelming part, I think another step to that is the expectations that were brought here with Sean Payton. Once the Broncos got Sean Payton, it was we could see a superstar staff develop. And then we started to see that develop in Carolina with Frank Wright, who certainly isn't as flashy or as good of a head coach as Sean Payton, but you see his staff and you're like, Broncos really should be able to compete with that. And then you see right after they hire Vance Joseph, they're in talks to potentially get Vic Fangio. Then it's oh my gosh, you're getting one of the best offensive minds, one of the best defensive minds. Vance kind of already has a deal with Miami. That doesn't work out. It's okay, we understand why that one didn't work out. Brian Flores, though, he's coming in the building tomorrow. And then that day, he's hired by the Vikings. And now you're okay, Now what is it going to be? Then there's other
talking about Sean Desai.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's other big names thrown out there, Matt Patricia, and then you land on Vance Joseph, who what I've said about him, and I maintain it, he's an average to slightly below average defensive coordinator. He's not a bad coordinator year in and year out. He's an average coordinator. But with Sean Payton, felt like you were going to get great to be on the other side. So that kind of falls in the underwhelming category.
Yeah,
Definitely. And I think the big thing to me is just that this is the place that thinks Vance Joseph is the worst. In the entire country. Even in Arizona, Bo was coming in saying he wasn't great, but he was dealt a rough hand. There's nowhere else in the country where Vance is seen as terrible as he was, and for good reason. I went back and watched some of his Broncos games. It's crazy. It's crazy some of the things that happened when he was head coach. One game where there's 18 seconds left in the first half and they just kick a field goal from 62 yards.
Yep.
Didn't even try to run it out. After that, the other team gets the ball back. Houston gets the ball back. This is the one we talked about yesterday when somebody said Bill O'Brien said that he was a fucking idiot on the sideline. It was after that decision.
Thanks, Vance, you fucking idiot.
I know. I was going back and exactly. Yeah. Some people read as that. Some people said I think he's saying, "Good job, you dumb fuck." And so there's like this whole big debate on the internet about like what exactly said.
All-time ear emotes.
Going back through all that was just insane. Because after that, he ices the kicker. Kicker misses the iced one. He hits the one right after. At the end of the game, they get into position. They messed up a whole bunch of weird time things. We don't have to get into all of it. But at that point, they dropped to 3-6. The season's essentially over. DVOA has them 8th in the NFL. But all those terrible coaching decisions means that like pretty good team is just basically out of it. And that stuff just happened over and over and over again.
Aren't they 3-1? Or was that a different?
At the start of the season?
Started.
Yeah.
That one was 3-1?
Yeah.
Okay.
3-1, they lost 5 in a row to go to 3-6.
Ugh.
And then I think they won 3 in a row to get to 6-6.
Yeah, and then they collapsed.
Yeah.
And you throw that on top of the fact that I think, so that season would have been the first back-to-back season of losing season in 40 years in Denver.
Yep.
And so, of course, people here
John
hate
always
him.
sleep on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, everybody should hate him. For what he did as head coach here. But I think it's important to remember his job is going to be different, and that's not going to make everybody be rational about it or say like, yeah, let's have a fresh start. And I can't say that it should, but I can also say that in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter all that much. What matters is whether he coaches a good defense, not whether the fans on Twitter are upset about it. That part's just annoying for the rest of us. And maybe Sean Payton, because he is online.
Speaking of being on Twitter, exactly. If Sean Payton's going to be online, this is like a great opportunity for him to send a message out to the fan base. I would legitimately love Sean Payton getting on his phone, taking a video of why the fans should support Vance Joseph. Now, I guess it hasn't been announced by the Broncos yet, right?
Correct.
So
None of
maybe
these
it
moves have
happens
been.
after that. I don't want to see like a press release that's just like Sean Payton, quote, Vance is a really great coordinator. We're very happy to have him in the building and bring him back home to Colorado. No, I want to see Sean Payton get on and be like, hey, guys, I have so much respect for Vance Joseph because of X, Y, and Z. I'm so excited to have him on his staff. Obviously, it didn't work out for him when he was a head coach here. No one wishes it worked out better more than Vance. Like, he is the spokesperson of the Broncos right now, especially in a positive light, right? People like Sean Payton. They're happy that he's the head coach. He could make a big impact here by, if he's going to be online, be online.
And that's just what is so confusing about his tweet on Wednesday. And we talked about it a little bit yesterday. I want to get your thoughts, but that was just something for the fans. The fans absolutely loved it. Kind of on the flip side of fans not really liking Vance Joseph, they absolutely loved Sean Payton doing that. But Ryan, just 2 weeks ago, Vance Joseph or Sean Payton said, we're not going to be online. We're going to be doing things behind the scenes, not putting it out there on social media. Just know we're working. So that's what was so confusing about that tweet, and why when you say that, I'm like, well, he's not going to do that. There's no chance he does that.
He should.
He should, definitely.
Yeah, I was pretty clear in our text thread. I don't think that that the head coach of an NFL team should even know what the media is tweeting.
It's true, and Sean Payton has done things differently than other NFL head coaches the past 2 weeks. He was the only coach that was on Radio Row, from my understanding. Now, he was probably the only coach that had a contract
Arizona State head coach Kenny Dillingham was on
Oh,
our
there
side.
you go. Okay.
Coach Prime, ever heard of him?
Okay, yeah, NFL
There
head
we go.
coaches. But now he has, I guess, a little out because he was working for Fox at the time. But at that time, he was also representing a different company, so maybe that actually takes that excuse away. And then he's the only one that's tweeting at media members as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not a big deal. It's just one of those things I was like, wow, like, he saw that tweet? How?
It wasn't a viral tweet.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
like, how did he see this tweet? Now, it is unfortunate for Eric Goodman that, like, the next day they announced, like, 20 hires.
I know. Yeah.
So it was like a bad timing. I feel like that wouldn't have happened if he even said it like 4 days earlier.
Right. It was absolutely perfect for Sean Payton.
Because they probably had all these agreements in place
He
that
knew it was
night.
coming out the next day.
And at the same time, I mean, the flip side, Mike Shanahan, we've all heard the stories about him calling up reporters.
Oh, yeah.
Saying like, well, why did you write that? Why did you write this? And I get that
That's
what's
different,
written in the
though.
newspaper is different than what's on Twitter, but it's a lot.
I don't like that
That kind of
either.
is the online newspaper. I mean, you're all
No, because one is behind the scenes. One is a phone call between one person
Yeah.
and another.
that is very
The
true.
other is out in public.
yeah.
And
But again, if he had come out there and said like, "Who even are you?" or like, "Who are you to be saying that stuff?" I really like the fact they just kept it simple. He's like, "We have this many done. We'll tell you when we're ready." To me, that's just so simple.
That was a disagreement between Henry and I, and so I wanna see where you're at. Henry took that as he was just stating the facts, and I took that last part that he said, like, "We'll tell you when we're ready," as very much a shot and kind of like, "I'm way bigger than you, bud."
I don't need to go even that far, but it was clearly like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, things are in place. Just because you don't know about it doesn't mean they aren't. You're not the be all end all of information. Again, it was just odd. Like, I think anyone can agree. I know the fans loved it, and I get it. Like, people love seeing people get dunked on. Like, once a year, I'll dunk on someone on Twitter and get 500 likes for it. People like seeing that. It's entertaining and funny, and that's why we're all here, right? Is to be entertained.
Yeah.
But
Broncos do a great job of that.
it was odd. You've never seen an NFL coach do that.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
And there's probably a reason for that. You don't even really see college coaches do that, and they're online.
Yep. And again, like that goes in the same bucket as like the fans don't like Vance Joseph. Meh, I don't care. Like it sucks. It's going to be annoying. At the same time, though, his job is to go coach football, not to make people happy. And if he coaches good football, it's going to be fine. If Sean Payton wants to go on Twitter and do that stuff, I don't care at all. Like, I don't care.
Fair enough. I want to talk about that, though. A lot of people are downplaying the role, in my opinion, that the fans play in the overall atmosphere that is a team, regardless of who they are. Like, we can pretend right now that it doesn't matter that the fans don't like Vance Joseph. But when they're booing in the second quarter of the first game because they just gave up a touchdown and, whatever, every time something happens, then we're going to talk about it. And everyone's going to be like, man, this is bad. This is a toxic environment. So the fans do matter. And the way the fans feel does matter. It's a lot easier to say in the offseason when it doesn't matter. But then you have like players saying like, oh yeah, especially behind closed door, like Garrett Bowles knows when the fans are booing at him. Like how the fans feel about things does matter. Yeah.
But again, like in the grand scheme of things, if he goes out there and just runs a good defense, everything's going to be fine. And if he doesn't run a good defense, things won't be fine. And I don't know.
The Broncos were planning on firing Nathaniel Hackett at the end of the season. Then what happened?
He gave up 51 points and the players were fighting on the sidelines.
And the fans lost their minds.
I don't think that was it, though.
Coaches get fired because of the fans all the time.
Something to it is, to Ryan's point, and I agree with you, the fans do have something to do with it. Are they the biggest thing? No, but they have something to do with it. You started to see the no-show count grow from the year before. It was embarrassing, and you started to see it grow even more from there as more games went on through the season. And fans do talk in that way and have an impact.
So, yeah, it shouldn't be the reason you make decisions, but a lot of times it moves the needle in decision-making. And so I think it does matter that the fans are upset about this. And again, is it going to make any difference of the Broncos win or loss total that Sean Payton is tweeting at radio hosts?
Right.
No. It's just odd.
It is odd. And there was another odd hire that I want to see what you guys think about. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook. If they had odds on Davis Webb being on Sean Payton's staff, plus 10,000? I mean, what would it have been? Maybe not that much since there was some buzz last year. Plus 1,000, but it would have been good odds over at DraftKings Sportsbook. Unlike Jokic getting a triple-double and the Nuggets winning, which is just wild that it's at plus 260. But hey, it just shows that he's that good at it. You get $26 if you win $26 if you bet $10, and the Nuggets just continue to dominate. So if you want to get in on their championship odds, I think that's where the best value is for the Nuggets right now. Plus 800, I believe, before the game yesterday. Maybe it's starting to fall a little bit after a big road win against Cleveland last night. You can get in on that. There's no value with Jokic winning MVP anymore. There's no value with the Nuggets being the 1 seed. I think the value is with that championship, and it's probably where the value is with the Avs as well. So check them out over at DraftKings Sportsbook. Use the promo code DNVR when you sign up to get all these offers. You can even look at NFL futures if you want. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. And of course, void in Ohio.
And if you want to go see Nikola Jokic or go see those Avalanche, then we have an awesome opportunity for you. We have partnered with Breckenridge Brewery for the Ultimate Game Day Experience giveaway. On March 30th, the Nuggets play the New Orleans Pelicans, and with Breckenridge Brewery, we are giving away 2 tickets, courtside row 2, with a Club Lexus pass, a parking pass, DNVR gear, and again, that's March 30th against the Pelicans. The Avs game March 9th against the Kings. These are also 2 tickets. Section 102, row 5. For those of you who don't know, those are really awesome seats. Club Lexus access, parking pass, DNVR gear, all that sort of stuff. So go to thednvr.com/BreckSweeps and complete the form to enter. Must be 21 or older. The link is also in the show description. Winners will be selected 1 week before each game.
All right.
All right.
The next controversial hire that Sean Payton made yesterday was bringing in Davis Webb to be the Broncos quarterback coach. 28 years old, played in the NFL last year, was Daniel Jones's backup. What'd you guys think?
Well, I already have a fractured relationship with Davis Webb.
That's right.
It's true.
Yep.
His name could have been on your shirt.
This was made in 1989.
His
so
name couldn't have been on your shirt. No, he wasn't.
No.
I wasn't even born. I'm joking a little bit here, but I just have to tell the story because I would be remiss if I didn't. Davis Webb was the backup to Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech, and once he knew that Patrick Mahomes was taking that over, he entered the transfer portal as a grad transfer. Which, this was before you could just transfer and play immediately. He was ready to play immediately. The Buffs had a very good team. I know that sounds unbelievable because it was just a few years ago. The Buffs actually had a very good team. And then it comes out that Davis Webb, who was slinging that thing at Texas Tech before Patrick Mahomes came in, is transferring to Colorado. What a moment. Electric. There was like 4 future NFL draft picks in the secondary. Sefo Lufau at the time was struggling mightily at quarterback. Yeah. Here comes Davis Webb to give the Buffs a quarterback they need to save the day. Amazing. Everyone, he signed his papers. He's done everything.
Man, let's go.
Spring ball starts like next week. It's going to Cal. No longer coming to see you. He had an apartment, apparently.
Wow.
Already booked. Last second flips and goes to Cal. It was a disastrous time in Buffs Nation. People were so upset, sad, mad, angry, all this stuff. But
okay,
there's a happy ending to this story because Sefo Lufau, in his 4th year as a starter, has a career season, becomes an all-time great Buff. The Buffs have the best season they've had since 2001, or in that area. And so the story has a happy ending, but it was an ugly, ugly time to be a Buffs fan at that time.
And that was only like one part of a crazy story for Davis Webb. Because I hadn't connected all the dots. I kind of looked through the thing. But I was talking to Dre before this, and he pointed it out. Like the last 8 years or so are just unbelievable. 10 years, really, I guess. So Cliff Kingsbury is the one who recruits him to Texas Tech. Yep. He goes to Texas Tech. He and Baker Mayfield are both freshmen there. They're like co-backups. They're taking turns whenever they're up by a lot or down by a lot or whatever. Davis beats out Baker, forces Baker to transfer out, and then Mahomes comes in. Mahomes passes him. That's when he transfers out. He goes to Cal. Obviously, we kind of covered all that. Winds up being like a 3rd-round draft pick. Goes to the Giants. And then to the Bills, and with the Bills fans say that he was a big reason why Josh Allen was able to learn a bunch of things 2nd and 3rd year. Daboll leaves to go to the Giants. Daboll brings Davis with him to the Giants. Then all the Giants fans are saying yeah, Daniel Jones, that's because Davis Webb was sitting right there asking all these questions, helping him out, doing all that stuff. And who knows how much of that is true.
Quarterback whisperer.
But what a journey to cross all those paths and now be in this situation.
And on top of that, why I think this is more impressive that Sean was able to get him was the Bills and Sean McDermott last offseason, before he followed Brian Daboll to New York to be a backup quarterback. Sean McDermott tried to hire him as the Bills quarterback coach to stay with Josh Allen because of how much he had helped Josh Allen. So They tried to make him a coach last year.
Is this a situation where every quarterback that Davis Webb is around turns to gold? Baker
Basically.
Mayfield, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and then Daniel Jones having the season of his career.
How about that?
I love the hire. Like, and again, in a vacuum, hiring a first-time quarterbacks coach who knows what he is to come in and try to work with Russell Wilson. He's also 6 years younger, 5 years younger. I don't love that, but when you factor in, Sean Payton's going to be pretty hands-on. You bring in Joe Lombardi, who spent a decade as Sean Payton's quarterbacks coach in New Orleans. It's not like this is just Davis Webb on his own.
You have an adult in the room.
Exactly. And then you throw in whatever veteran backup they bring in, and there's one more person to, ask questions and point things out in meetings. And it just seems like you have so many different, really smart offensive minds all around Russell Wilson. And that is probably the best thing that could have happened this offseason.
Yeah, it's striking at first.
Yes.
When you hear it's a guy that's played in the league only a couple years as a backup. He's 28 years old. He's 6 years younger than Russell Wilson, the guy that he's going to be coaching and supposed to have the closest relationship with in the building.
So Russell Wilson wins the Super Bowl in what year? 2013?
Yep.
How old is Davis Webb at that time?
He would have been a freshman at Texas Tech. That's when
Yep.
he was going back and forth with Baker.
How crazy is that? So at first it's like, oh my gosh, what in the world? But then you realize how smart this guy is, specifically from a quarterback position. You read some of the stories
Not
about
smart
him.
enough to stay in Boulder.
Oh, there you go. You read some stories
I'm
about
not
him.
going to hold this against
Where did he go? Oh, yeah. UC Berkeley. Ever heard of it?
Yeah, it's a pretty good school. You should hear the stories about him working with the quarterbacks, Daniel Jones, and he essentially has been the quarterbacks coach for these guys these past few years. He understood his role, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's getting a pay raise to come do this job from being a player to now being a coach. And this is another position where the Broncos and Sean Payton could take a gamble, because if Davis Webb doesn't work out, it's probably not going to impact the team that much. Especially, he knows who Davis Webb is. He knows that he's not going to come in and be a massive failure. If he's great, then they can promote him to offensive coordinator next year. If he leaves as for a head coach, that means he's done a fantastic job with Russell Wilson and this quarterback room. But we know that Sean Payton's going to be so involved, so I don't think there's a massive risk here.
I'm now just realizing also, Davis Webb and Sefo Lufau rubbed shoulders for a few days. Then Sefo had the best year of his career.
How
That's
about
true.
that?
He's literally good luck Chuck.
We need to get him in here.
Yeah.
Just make us better
Whoa.
podcasters.
Pods of our lives.
Yeah.
We'd have to start a flag football team or something
Right.
with only quarterbacks.
And we'll just be great.
Yeah. I wonder
like
if
it.
he would be the quarterback of our flag football team. That would actually be super sick.
I would actually, he might throw it too hard.
I mean,
It's very true.
I think he'd be smart enough to know not to.
I don't know, 1,000, 2,000, some pressure on him. He slings that thing, it hits Henry in the chest. Now we're going to the hospital.
And isn't
Nah,
he
I got good
6'5", 230? He's a big
he's-
guy. He's strong.
Yeah.
Big boy.
And another thing with this is we know Jake Heaps was involved and around the building a lot last year. Russell
was around
Wilson's
Heaps.
he was around Heaps, was his personal quarterback coach. A lot of drama with that. Obviously, he's not going to be in the building this year. Jake Heaps, 31 years old. So Russell Wilson liked working with someone who was younger, who didn't seem like just this coach figure that was just going to talk down to him, someone he could relate to. 28 years old. Someone that he's going to be able to relate to in a similar way of Jake Heaps.
I think you guys have talked me into this being my favorite hire so far.
Oh,
It's definitely the most fun hire.
Yeah.
Just coming out of nowhere.
I think the downside is almost non-existent because essentially if it doesn't work out, you just move him aside.
Right.
You have
Essentially.
Joe Lombardi right there.
Exactly. And Sean Payton. Right?
And Sean Payton, yeah.
The chain of command is two quarterback whisperers and then potentially a quarterback whisperer of the future.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it's probably more likely that next year someone's either trying to hire Davis Webb as their offensive coordinator or their head coach than it is that he flames out and doesn't work. Because,
Yeah.
like I said, even if it doesn't work out for him, if they're I don't think what he's telling Russ is really clicking, they'll just move. They'll just be okay, Lombardi, you got to go work a little bit more closely.
Exactly. And if Russell Wilson doesn't work out this year, that's not going to be a negative look for Sean Payton, for Joe Lombardi, probably for Davis Webb either. And then they'll bring in another guy who's probably going to be younger, and then Davis Webb's going to be an older guy compared to the young guy.
And Nick Rallis So he's the new defensive coordinator for the Cardinals.
29 years old.
Youngest coordinator in NFL history. Davis will turn 29 January 22nd of next year. So if somebody puts together a staff quickly and hires him, he would get the first of 28. But I think more
But
likely,
he would probably be still by days the youngest coordinator ever if he got it next year.
Yeah.
probably. And I think that if he was that good, they probably just promote him and say like, Joe Lombardi, guess what? You're now passing game coordinator, you're assistant head coach, and you get a pay bump.
Best outcome is Joe Lombardi. We still don't know if he's the offensive coordinator. I think Sean Payton's trying to see if there's another person he's going to bring at offensive coordinator, essentially bump someone up from quarterback
True.
coach, bring them in. But what would be the best case, probably not going to happen, Joe Lombardi gets a head coaching job next year. Then you bump Davis Webb up to offensive coordinator. Probably not going to happen because he's not even calling plays.
Super best case, Davis Webb is so good that Sean Payton sees how good he is and says, you know what? I owe it to the Broncos to step down from my position and hand you the reins.
Why would that be good though?
Yeah,
If
because
Sean
because
Payton's
Davis Webb
leaving?
is that good.
Then
Or he
they
says like,
traded-
I'll be your OC.
Then they
Is that
traded
better?
all that for 1 year.
Hey, if team gets
Boy.
better, if Davis Webb is that good.
This is interesting. I need to know who the quarterback was that backed him up at Cal that year to see if they also had a
Oh.
career year the next
Very
year.
true. That's a good
Chase
question.
Garbers, maybe?
That feels.
I just want to name a name before I look.
I was thinking Jared Goff for a second, but that's reverse. He
Yep.
preceded.
He filled in for him.
Yep.
Maybe still some rubbing of the shoulders.
Potentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe they hung out this last offseason. That's why Goff is so good for the Lions this year.
Any other takeaways? So the Broncos coaching staff pretty much filled out, like I said, offensive coordinator open. Joe Lombardi doesn't have a title yet. He could eventually be the offensive coordinator. Any running back coach is still open. CJ Anderson put his ring
love it.
in the hat yesterday.
ring in the hat.
Put his hat in the ring yesterday. So that's a saying.
He threw his hat in the ring.
Okay. I was asked, I had one of these moments last night where I'm like, is this a saying? I asked my fiance, she's like, I don't know. And I'm just going to avoid it completely.
Put his ring in the hat would be like, I don't know, like everyone puts their ring in a hat, you shake it out, you pull one out.
Which could kind of work.
Yeah, it could work. Yeah.
And he has a ring, so.
Yeah, he does a big. That would be the easiest one to pull out.
Speaking of big rings, Alyssa, new head of production here
True.
at DNVR, comes over from altitude. Was part of the coverage of the Stanley Cup last year.
Yeah.
Yesterday, brought in her Stanley Cup ring.
Oh man!
Got to put it on. Was gonna tweet out a picture, but my hands are kind of ugly. Just know
Aw.
it's fire and
Wait,
heavy.
I think this weekend you need to go get a manicure, and then so you can come in on
I don't
Monday.
know if there's
put
anything
it
you
on.
can do about me just chomping my nails down.
That's
to
very
nothing.
true. Yeah, my nails are pretty gross too. But other than that, staff pretty much set. We know defense. We know all the defensive guys. Matt Patricia may join on in like a senior advisor role, but other than that, we know all the position coaches, special teams. We know the coordinator. We know the assistant head coach is going to help with the special teams.
Do we have confirmation on Lombardi's official title yet?
No.
That's the only thing we don't know.
Which is interesting.
It is interesting.
And
'Cause
that's,
I
that's
would
what
imagine
leaves
there's a
offensive
reason.
coordinator
Exactly.
open.
It reminds me of a relationship comparison.
Oh.
So you meet this girl, and you really like her, right? And you're like, I think I want you to be my girlfriend. The only thing is, I have a couple other dates set up, and there's a chance I might find another girl that I want to be my girlfriend more between now and next week. So just stay right there. Might be my girlfriend in the future.
I think
what's-
it makes even more sense if that girl is your ex. Because it's like they had that history before, so you're like, oh, I just
think
got out of
might
her.
want to get back
Yeah,
together.
and it's like, oh, we should go on a date. But then you also have this date set up with like a better girl, if we're just being frank about it. and so you're like, oh, well, better girl might come along. If not, nice girl there.
You're here. You stay right
But-
here.
This
But-
girl will be a good girl.
Another thing thrown into this is you've already guaranteed your ex that she's at least going to be in the picture. Because so
Give her a
you're
signing
saying
bonus.
you're gonna be
in the friend group.
maybe a little more though.
Wow.
But the
Whoa,
other person's
minimum
gonna know
size.
Not
about
good news for
the,
the other
the other
person.
person's gonna know about this as well because they've hired him.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. If I would have just not let Mike Kliss say it that way.
Yeah, and also Joe Lombardi's been available for a month now, so like probably didn't have to make it official yesterday. Probably could have waited until you found out your what else you're doing at offensive coordinator before going after.
But what other positions are open? Like, if he's not the offensive coordinator, what is he? Offensive analyst?
Yeah,
like
he could be a senior.
whatever.
Huge drop.
But the pay, they could make it the same pay.
If he's still in there working on game planning and all that sort of stuff, and that's his main, like, if you just kind of become assistant to the offensive coordinator in that role, like, he'd just be like a third voice in that room or a fourth or however it would work out, and you pay him the same regardless. I would also, this is just a guess, but I'd guess that they figured this out like a month ago. And I agree, there was no reason to announce it yesterday. I mean, as Sean Payton clearly believes, why even announce it? Like, who cares?
Get to work.
We don't need to flex on every accomplishment. They know.
Yeah, it's odd. Should we get into grades?
Let's get into grades.
Let's grade it
What
up.
grade are you giving this coaching staff? And so the way that I had you here make this graphic, as we can see, grading Sean Payton's coaching staff. The way I view this, and we can change it if you guys want, we've already given a grade to Sean Payton being hired. Now this is the staff below him.
Okay.
So for me, I wasn't going to include Sean Payton in this.
This is a big swing, but I think you're right.
Is.
I think this is the right way to do it. You guys know, especially people who watch this show often, I am an extremely positive person. I always want to be on the positive side of things. It's just my like general outlook on life. I just end up there. And I also am never going to just sit here and like feign outrage to just like try and stir everyone up and say like, this is a disaster.
Yeah.
Especially because like we don't know. We are projecting, and I think it would be silly to sit here and say this is a disaster. And I think there's probably some shock jock radio people saying this is a disaster.
I bet.
But I also like to keep it a buck with you guys. And so I'm not going to pretend that I love this if I don't. And that's where I'm at. I got to be honest. There's not one hire on this staff so far that I have said, man, I love that. Now, Davis Webb, you guys kind of talked me into.
Yeah.
And I've come around on that. That's now certainly my favorite hire of the cycle. Outside of that, man, I just go through the list and I'm just like, okay, okay, okay. Not one was there like, now this is going to be sick, or like this is interesting. If they would have gotten Vic Fangio to be the defensive coordinator, I'd have said that is an A+ poll.
Yep.
Even Brian Flores, I would have been excited about. You go down the list. There's nothing in here that makes me go, wow, what a hire. And so I'm concerned. And I think there's a decent chance that Sean Payton is just such a good coach that this stuff kind of irons itself out.
Yeah.
And guys like Davis Webb end up looking like geniuses and get elevated because they're working in this environment. And I think there's a chance that Vance Joseph has enough talent on the defensive side of the ball to essentially have like some of the best seasons of his career here in Denver, especially with some offensive help. As he would tell you just got to get a lead and all of a sudden the defense gets kicking. But nothing about this excites me. So it's a C.
It's a C. So average.
And honestly,
An average staff.
I woke up this morning at C-. Davis Webb, you guys got me excited.
There we go, the young guy. Henry, where are you?
I've got a B.
Okay.
I think that it's very solid. It's very consistent. And I think that there are people who I'm very excited about. Obviously, Davis Webb. I think Mike Westhoff was a great hire.
Oh.
I think everything they did with the special team staff was awesome.
I do want to add the two guys that they brought back. This is probably my two
Yep.
favorite things before Davis Webb.
And that's where I was going to go. I mean, Christian Parker to me is an A. I think that bringing back the defensive line coach, Marcus Dixon, there we go. That's another great hire. And sure, like Vance Joseph to me, C+, C, something like that. And that kind of drags things down. But I don't know. I'm not grading things on like a Sean Payton curve either. You know, I'm not factoring in that I thought like Vic Fangio is probably going to be a guy. This guy's probably going to be a guy. In terms of like bringing in an NFL coaching staff, I think it's a B.
Man, and I'm right in between you guys. And I was before either of you talked, and I couldn't decide C+, B-.
Oh, this is big.
It is. I'll be nice. But I mean, I want to go both, but I'll go B- here. And what brings it up? What kicks it up to being a B instead of a C+? Mike Westhoff being
I
the
love it.
assistant head coach. I like that he's not just an advisor or a special teams advisor or the assistant special teams coordinator. I hope he has a lot more power than just special teams. I think he is an absolute ace. I think Sean Payton really wanted him, and the fact that he got him is good. When I look at the rest of the coaching staff, Vance Joseph, average hire, so C. The rest of the two other guys on defense, I should say, with everyone, there's no risk of disaster with this staff. So outside of Davis Webb, who would be
Davis Webb has like fallback though.
Exactly. Like he's so insulated.
Like you don't think there's any chance of failure for Zach Strief?
I mean, compared to last year, though.
Potentially.
But the problem with last year is you brought in a guy with no experience.
Worst case scenario, you're getting better, though.
Or very little experience.
I think worst case scenario, I think you're getting better.
What makes me feel better and fine about Zach Strief is Sean Payton's been around him for 15 years.
True.
For sure. And that absolutely gives me more confidence. I just, like, 2 years ago, we had Mike Munchak as the Broncos offensive line coach, and now we have a guy who's never done it before.
Yeah, no, certainly. So Vance Joseph honestly may have the lowest floor of any of these guys because he has produced
Highest floor.
No, the lowest floor.
Lowest floor.
Or the lowest. Lowest floor because he has produced in 7 of his years leading a defense 2 bottom 5 defenses. Last year being the second worst, and I think that's an average hire. You look around, I don't see there being much failure. A lot of these guys, 6 of the 8 position coaches that have been hired have been former players in the NFL. So that's kind of some stability there. Clearly, Sean Payton likes that a lot, especially with Vance Joseph having been an NFL player. But when you look, there's no Mike Munchaks of the group. There's no Vic Fangios where you're looking and saying, whoa, what a home run outside of Mike Westhoff.
Yeah. I totally agree. Like, that's where I'm at. Like, there's nobody who really disappoints me, and except for Vance Joseph, and he really disappoints me because when I was in college, he ruined my Broncos fandom for 2 years. It just made me miserable. And outside of that, he's like, yeah, sure, it's fine. And to me, like, that is the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, I guess for me, it's like I think Vance Joseph would be an average hire for any other team. But you're throwing him into a bear pit.
Just fair.
And I just don't like that. It doesn't seem smart to me. I would love nothing more than the Vance Joseph redemption story here in Denver. Like, he puts together 2 top 10 or top 5 defenses over the next couple of years. The Broncos make the playoffs. Like, everyone's like, man, like Vance is just one of those guys who was a great coordinator, didn't work out as a head coach. Maybe next time he does a head coach. Like, I want that to happen. But as a hire, like, I'm grading it on the whole scale. Yeah. Part of that scale to me, and I know some people disagree with it, is just the fan feeling about it, and it's the worst it could be.
Talk about the redemption stories that could be happening in Denver this year. Vance Joseph, you just laid out the case. Russell Wilson could be one of those. Speaking of Russ, another big article coming out about Russ today. Let's dive into that. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at Jive Hive. I agree with you. And what you're doing this weekend is you're calling up our friends over at Jive Hive. Weather cold today. Things can be a little better, but still, you don't want to leave your house on the weekend. You want to check out Jive Hive, where they're going to deliver weed straight to you. And not only is it a great service, very convenient for you, but it's going to give you even more affordable options because they don't have any brick and mortar stores where they're paying for a lot of overhead for stores all around the city. No, they don't have stores. They deliver straight to you. So it's convenient. It's affordable. You get privacy and security because they just bring it straight to your house. And if you've been partying already, you don't have to worry about how you're going to get yourself to a store. They're going to come straight to you. So check them out over at jivehive.com. That's JIVEHYVE.com in order to check out everything they've got. They're delivering to Aurora, Greenwood Village, Monument, Fountain, and various areas of El Paso County. And make sure to just keep checking them out, jivehive.com, to see when they try to expand their areas of where they deliver. You can also just use the QR code on our screen.
And if you make the horrible decision to not order from Jive Hive and you venture out into the snow and the ice and a terrible, terrible driver rams his truck right into you and you're walking with your dog, your two dogs, both puppies.
Leave the dogs
Neither
out of
old-
this,
my
bro.
God.
No, I'm just
is
saying, like,
dark.
do you want? I mean, this is why you call. This is why you call, because it's terrible. It's terrible stuff. But if that sounds like what has happened to you, then you should call Backus and Shanker, because they will get you compensated for the horrible thing that the terrible driver did to you. They are Colorado's top injury attorneys, and they won't charge you until they win your case. So you can call it 222-2222 to set up a consultation. They'll let you know whether you have a case, whether they'll take your case, and they won't charge you fees as they work all the way through until they win your case. They've won over $1 billion for their clients. They serve all of Colorado. They've been here for more than 25 years. They've got neighborhood offices in Denver, Aurora, Inglewood, Fort Collins, and they have the strength and power to win your case with more than 30 lawyers and a massive staff. So Backus and Shaker helps with all kinds of injury cases where you weren't at fault: car accidents, motorcycle, rideshare, pedestrians, trucks. They can even help if you've been injured at work. Call them at 222-2222 to find out if you have a case for free.
Love it. And Edward actually points out something cool here. We usually have like a theme for our season of coverage. Last year obviously was Let's Ride and that sort of thing. But we usually come up with like our own side thing that's ours. This year, redemption.
I like that. I
For
like it a
everybody.
lot.
It's a season of redemption.
Yeah.
Like all the way through. I mean, and I guess that's what happens when we win 5 games. But we hit on a couple of them. But even like Cortland Sutton, like, is Jerry Jeudy a top receiver? This offensive line, Javonte Williams potentially coming back from an injury. The defense and all that stuff. I mean,
KJ Hamler.
Yeah, it's all their chances to
redeem.
to not suck like they did.
Most notably,
Vance Joseph.
and
Russell Wilson.
Yes.
Russell Wilson. People were classifying it as a bombshell piece that came out on The Athletic today from a Broncos perspective. And I guess the biggest news there would be from a Seattle standpoint of that Russell Wilson reportedly told Seattle ownership that it was you had to fire the general manager and the head coach, Pete Carroll, or else it was him. He needed to go, and obviously they chose to keep those guys and move on from Russell Wilson. From a Broncos standpoint, nothing much was brand new here. They really just dove into the antics of Russell Wilson last year, and not even a power struggle, just how much power Russell Wilson had.
I think the biggest thing was that Jerry took his office away and kicked out his staff.
Exactly.
I think that is pretty big stuff, because I remember thinking in the locker room, like, Russell seems to be here more toward the end of the season. I wonder what that's about. Like, as he was trying to like build up some relationship, be around. Apparently that's what was going down. And Jerry in the story too is like, yeah, I mean, not much of a difference other than he was just in the locker room more. And I was like, oh wait, he was. That's why, wasn't it? Thanks, Jerry. You should have just told me that.
Yeah, it's funny that I saw like one of those football aggregator accounts that just like takes stuff from articles and posts it. Say like, wow, according to The Athletic, Russell Wilson had his own office on the second floor.
Right.
I went back and looked. I broke that in June of last year on this show.
Yeah,
that has almost been out there, and I'm pretty sure I was the first person to share it for a year. And people are like just now like, wow, bombshell.
Yeah, and that's exactly right.
Yep.
And Henry, there were two things that I took from this, and that was one of them. You said it. The Jerry knew what was going on. I mean, the first day he took over, with less than 2 weeks left, he said, I'm firing the special teams coordinator. I'm firing the offensive line coach because what they're doing is not good, not making it work. And then he also said something else that's not working and not making it work is Russell Wilson having this power that no player should have, that no player comes close to having on this team. By the end of the season, his office was cleared out, which apparently, according to this article, had lots of things in the office, a lot of quotes on the wall, a lot of new play designs on the wall that he was implementing into games. And then also Jake Heaps was no longer in the building. And as Ryan said earlier, Jake was around the building a heap load before then. So Sean Payton coming in. Thank you, Jerry Rosberg. You've already done the hard work for Sean Payton here. Another reason why Jerry Rosberg should get a lot of credit. And then
Rosberg's so dope.
Maybe there's some correlation here, but also obviously what Justin Outen did with game calling those final 2 weeks. Russell Wilson went on to have the best 2-game stretch of his season.
Yeah. Well, and then there was also the part about so we knew about the Tuesday, like state of the team, whatever he called it.
State of the team.
Oh, yeah. Weird stuff. you love to hear that they're coming in and doing extra work. But I loved when the anonymous coach said, like, yeah, he'd give out his like notes on the opposing team and like old game plan, old scouting report. We sometimes disagreed with what he had in that scouting report that he was handing out. And like the idea that him and his personal quarterbacks coach were going in there and doing that much of the thinking and telling people what was going on and what they need to know. Let the coaches do the coaching. Like, I get that you want to be that guy, but I don't even think like Tom Brady is really that guy. Not to that extent, because his whole thing is like, treat me like one of the guys. Let me be in the locker room.
Yeah,
and he has some of that stuff.
I bet Tom Brady has a lot of behind the scenes conversations with the coaching staff, but like out front of everyone,
yes,
he lets the coaches coach.
You work alongside the coaches. You can meet with the coaches early Monday morning, late Monday night, early Tuesday morning. Give them your input. And then they'll work with you on what they think is right, what they think is wrong. Then, like you said, they present it to the team. And then also, you do it that way so that on Thursday, the quarterback isn't coming in and saying, well, I disagree with what the coach is saying. And then there's obvious friction that's very clear. So you do it a different way. You are not a coach. And one of the reasons, in my opinion, why the Broncos wanted Sean Payton or Jim Harbaugh was there was going to be no question of who was in charge, specifically when it came to Russell Wilson, and Sean Payton has already made that clear.
I think my favorite, not even my favorite part, I think one of the things that I came away from that just thinking about for like 15 minutes was about how Jerry was kind of like an angel, like out of the Bible, who just like arrived for like 2 weeks when everybody was at their lowest.
Oh, I was thinking Jerry Jeudy.
No, he's... No. But yeah, but like when Jerry comes in, he's like, don't worry, guys. If you guys just do these things and play this way and focus on this stuff, everything's going to be fine. The owners are good. I'm going to set the tone here. And then it's up to you to just do all of these things. Everything will be fine. And then there he goes again. And everybody just thinks like, Jerry. I really think that could kind of be at like a turning point.
Maybe.
I mean, it is really, Sean Payton should call him up and be like, thank you.
Yeah.
He did like the hardest part.
Yep.
And he was in such, like Henry said, he's kind of in a unique position to do it with no backlash.
Yeah.
He's just thinking like, what is Russell Wilson gonna do? Hate me for 2 weeks?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, he was also a self-aware guy. I don't think he ever thought that he was gonna get the job after his interim stint. And so he was just like, a lot of interim coaches just come in and they're like, yeah, guys, like, I'm the new coach. We're going to keep things pretty much the same. I don't want to change things up on you. No. Jerry Rosberg came in and said, you suck, you're fired. You suck, you're fired.
Yeah.
That guy's got to go. He doesn't even work here.
Exactly.
Why do you have an office? You're a player.
Yes. It's obvious stuff when you take a step back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it shows you just how bad the dynamics were. And obviously, it's not all Russell Wilson's fault. It's not all Nathaniel Hackett's fault. Someone who I think has totally escaped all of this is George Payton. And he was in charge of Nathaniel Hackett, of Russell Wilson, and he's just flown under the radar. And I won't say anything more about it, but it is kind of fascinating. I mean, he was in charge and overseeing all of this as it happened.
Was he mentioned in the Athletic article? Hardly at all.
Not that I can remember. And the one other takeaway from this is that Russell Wilson has wanted to be coached by Sean Payton for a while. Is that mind-blowing news? No. What Sean Payton has done as an offensive genius has been amazing. I'm sure a lot of top quarterbacks want to be coached by him, but the fact that he mentioned Sean Payton's name last year before even being traded to Denver shows just how much he really wanted him this year. And we know that he made the phone call to Sean during this offseason, during this program about it, but it shows just, man, how much he's looking forward to working with Sean.
Yeah. I just love the first 6 words of that sentence. Russell Wilson wants to be coached.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't even care by who.
Yeah.
It turns out to be great that the Broncos head coach is the top of that list. I just like to hear Russell Wilson wants to be coached because I think it's really important to anything working with whoever here.
And I think that he learned that last year. I think, and many reports have made it clear, Russell Wilson wanted to do it his way for a decade, or maybe, half a decade after it worked for 5 years in Seattle. He wanted to do it his way. He wanted to cook. He wanted to be the one throwing the ball around. He wanted to run his offense the way he wanted it. He got that last year, and it failed miserably.
Yep.
Now I think Russell Wilson understands how important coaching is, how important independent coaching is, how important it is to listen to your coaches, and the reason is he wants his legacy to be bigger than just him running the show right now. So I think he understands, okay, what I did trying to be my own coach last year did not work. And Henry, stay out of the comment section. Stay focused on this show.
Hold on.
You're the hater.
One more thing here that came out about Russell Wilson yesterday, which is just like, it's so surprising to me that we find out about this so much later down the road.
Yeah.
But it was the Ryan Leaf clip talking about how Russell Wilson's, for lack of a better term, like mind coach, passed away from brain cancer in 2021. And last year was the first season that Russ didn't have him to work with leading up to the season. And, he talked about like the neutral mindset and how you don't let anything get you down. And you saw Russ certainly trying to stay with that as long, and not let negative thoughts and negative feelings about the season, impact the way that he thought. But it was really fascinating hearing Ryan Leaf talk about it, who Ryan Leaf worked with the same person when he got out of prison and essentially said, like, this dude helped save my life. And just kind of a sad story that this guy who, a lot of people regarded as a genius and certainly made a positive impact on a lot of people, passes away. And it's just like a piece of the story that it's crazy to me that we don't find until almost halfway through the off season.
Yeah.
After the season.
And just imagine how important that person is just in anyone's life that uses a mind coach, but specifically when you're talking about football and how mental of a game it is, and not just dealing with football, but dealing with all of the drama that he had to go through last offseason before being traded and then being put in a new place. Wouldn't you think that's when you need someone the most to help change your mindset and to help adapt to new places? And then especially during the season when he faces the most adversity he's ever faced in his career, to not have that person. And we know that he's surrounded himself with other people, other mind coaches, someone that Michael Jordan has worked with, and other top athletes. So he did surround him with someone, but when you have someone work with you for so long and then the person's not there, you have to imagine that has an impact.
Totally. And again, it's really easy, and honestly, mostly the right opinion is to say, yeah, Russell Wilson gets some hate for how he plays, and that just comes with the territory, and he makes $250 million. And like sometimes you have to live with that sort of stuff. But like losing that coach probably hurt. He also lost his dad. Like there are some really tough parts of his life that should make it really easy to root for him. Like, and somehow everything's turned into like, oh, Russell this, Russell that. Ha ha ha, what a loser. And again, guy makes $250 million playing football. I think he'll take that sort of treatment along with that kind of money. Because again, it comes with the territory. But hopefully things work out. And hopefully 15 years from now, people look back on Russell Wilson and say like, this is our guy. This is awesome. Oh, just like Peyton. Guess what? The Seahawks fans hate him. He's ours now because he did this for us. And there he is coming out here. Him and Peyton are sharing a box 2 games a season. And there's still a chance it happens. And I think it's easy to get lost in the fact that he was bad and the team was bad and he did some weird things, but there's still 4 years left on this contract, 5 years left on this contract, and 6 years? Is it 6 years? I think it's actually 6 years, isn't it? 5 plus he would have had this one.
Yep.
6 more years to figure it out.
Maybe. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Henry. I hope this all turns around. I would love to be out there defending Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
And just like every time anyone tries to shit on him for like some commercial he did, just be like, yep, that's our guy.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
Might be cringy, but he wins us games. And then just the way things fell apart last year, it was like, okay, well now it all kind of looks kind of bad.
Yep.
And that's what it all boils down to. And people have been saying in the comments section, by the way, spicy comment section today. But
Spicy day, spicy Friday.
It is. What it all boils down to is, yes, winning. Yes. If Russell Wilson wins, then yeah, everything's going to be great. If he doesn't, he might be out of here after this year or after next year, definitely. So that's what it all boils down to. And should we talk to the spicy comment section?
Let's get spicy.
We got a super chat. Let's see if it's spicy coming in from Broker. Says, team slogan this year should be Time of their lives.
No.
If the defense balls out and Vance Joseph's pumped up on the sideline, could that turn into a positive thing?
No.
Never.
Nope. Same with Let's Ride.
Really?
These things need to be retired and forgotten about.
Oh, what if it's like a 10-0 start, number one offense, number one quarterback, best defense in the NFL? You still think it needs to be in the grave?
Fuck them.
Oh my
There we
goodness!
go.
If they won't, but if they win the Super Bowl this year, Super Bowl week, we're gonna be leading up to it saying, "Oh, having the time of our lives behind that defense." I bet Pat Surtain's out there having the time of his life, locking down number ones every week.
I'm fine with it being a bit. I mean, when it's cold, it's tough. Has survived 5 years
Exactly.
on this podcast.
Yep. And boy, was it cold yesterday, and was it tough for
It was
Vance
tough.
being
It was
announced as the DC?
Tough, just outside too.
It was,
like
yeah.
I on football related. I thought yesterday was tough.
Jake and I were up at CU interviewing the assistant coaches, and we usually do a video outside, like with a beautiful background
Yeah.
in Boulder. And we got out there, and like everywhere was in the shade, and then I was just like, I'm making an executive decision. We got to do this inside. It's just it's cold as tough.
That's cold
It's
as
right.
tough.
Vance was
I
on
don't
to
want to be
something.
chattering my teeth as we're
No.
trying to do a video.
No, definitely not. We do have some comments on the website. The count says there's a lot of poo-poo being shoved on the name of Vance Desmond Joseph, and some of it is deserved. But I will remind you all, as discussed by Zach and RK on the February 7th, 2019 VSN pod entitled Why Denver Fell So Fast After Super Bowl 50, that in the 3 calendar years following the Broncos' last hoisting of the Lombardi, the ball club had 4 different offensive coordinators, 3 different defensive coordinators, and 3 different head coaches.
So bad.
Vance may have ushered in the original tide that led to our current climate of suck, but there have been many faded wins blowing over Mile High since 2015. Let us not make VJ our lone scapegoat. Also on that episode, Zach and RK get into the nitty-gritty of a good chicken sandwich. Love the
Ooh.
count.
Maybe that was live from Doghouse.
Oh, maybe.
I haven't had
Oh.
chicken
The
sandwich
Bad
in a
Mother
while.
Clucka at Doghouse.
Oh, it sounds so good right now.
Still goes so
Oh
hard.
my gosh. And that's free advertising.
Yeah, they earned it.
They did.
They
They
fed
really
us
did.
like
Yep.
once a week
Yep.
for a long time.
And it was so good. Hawaiian buns. And just, I mean, the count. Bravo. February 7th, 2019 pod.
Wow.
4 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm sure the count hears me say a lot of dumb shit on these podcasts.
Well, you and me both. Arvada Luke says, there's a lot of discussion about the perception of Broncos defense being top tier. Though they didn't finish that way, I think we can all agree that we'd rather have been the Detroit Lions top tier offense, bottom tier defense. I don't think there's any way our defense plummets that significantly, and our offense looks to be aligned to be that top tier. Couple of questions. Who are 2 players you want to bring in or re-sign for Vance Joseph? And the second one, what excites you more about the Joe Lombardi hire? Offensive coordinator experience with Herbert and the Chargers, or offensive coordinator experience with Megatron and the 11-5 Detroit Lions in 2014?
Well, Chargers fan was really dunking on the Broncos for hiring Joe Lombardi yesterday, so I had to get him back. I said having Joe Lombardi on the staff is the closest the Chargers have ever been to a Lombardi.
Wow. And it's fact.
It is
Yeah,
fact.
Yeah. Wow.
So I would have to go with the Lions.
Me too.
I've said this like several times talking about Jim Caldwell, Matt Stafford. If you're a part of the Lions making the playoffs, you've done something very special.
True.
I agree. And
Put him in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what was there? Did they never make the playoffs with Barry Sanders? I think that might be a thing.
that is just wild.
If they did, I think it might be they never won a playoff game with Barry Sanders.
I don't think they ever won a playoff game with Barry Sanders.
Have they ever won a playoff game in their history?
Let's
Oh
see.
my goodness.
Kramer took him to a playoff game, and Kramer was the quarterback for the Barry Sanders era.
I think they won 1 playoff game.
So then Joe Lombardi, also the closest the Lions have been to a Lombardi.
Yes. That's
Wow, very tough.
10 years. 10 years. Won 1 playoff game. Lost like 5 other wild cards
true.
with Barry Sanders.
Top 3 running back of all time. Is that fair
yeah.
to say?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Easily, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, but the other
Yikes.
part, what 2 free agents would you bring in for Vance Joseph? First one, I mentioned this yesterday. Patrick Peterson needs to be like the first person you call. Like, he's
So old.
Yeah, I don't love it.
He's 32. He just played the most snaps he's ever played in a single season. He had the best passer rating allowed that he's given up since 2015, third best of his career. You could make the case that he's playing the best football of his career at this point.
Okay,
and again, like,
Joe Flacco.
the fact that you could get him for a third of the cost of some of these other guys, like if you want to talk about why the Vikings won so many games, how about their best defensive player being Patrick freaking Peterson locking guys down? Then you throw in the fact that he gets to spend all day, every day with Damari Mathis and Pat Surtain. He's estimated by Pro Football Focus to get $5 million. He's worked with Vance in the past. It just seems like such an easy answer, especially when you want to play so much man coverage. And second one, since I went kind of cheap there, and honestly, I probably wouldn't go this far, but I think CJ Gardner-Johnson makes a lot of sense because you get to play him in the box so much. You ask him to man up against tight ends a whole bunch. He becomes that eraser. And I know Zach doesn't want to invest in the defense, and it is what it is, but that was the question. Which two would you go after?
I think you're talking about the defensive coordinator, so it's
exactly. So if which two would you get for Vance Joseph? I think those are the two. And you float around the idea of like a linebacker, but I mean, it was like Todd Davis and Brand Marshall, and they were fine.
Our guy, Bo Brock, had a fantastic name that I did some digging in on more yesterday, and I think it's a fantastic fit. Defensive lineman Zach Allen for the Cardinals. He was a beast last year, but not just last year, and that's what Bo focused on. The past 2 years, he's been a full-time starter. He has had so much production, 10 sacks the past 2 years combined, but the quarterback hits and pressures and tackles for a loss are off the charts. And so if you move on from Draymond Jones, Zach Allen could cost half the price. Now, maybe 2/3 of the price of him, and you're getting just as much production, and you're getting a guy that clearly works very well with Vance Joseph. So I love that option.
There's a chance that the Buccaneers could potentially want to move on from Shaq Barrett's contract.
Oh, welcome home.
I mean, Vance homecoming, Shaq homecoming.
Baby.
Wow. That would be fun.
It would be a lot of fun.
Yep.
And it would give you another accomplished pass rusher, which right now you have Randy Gregory and question marks.
Yeah.
And good question marks, I would say. Like, you feel confident. You've seen flashes for some of these question marks, but bringing Shaq Barrett, I would be hyped.
We also don't know exactly what Vance Joseph's going to do with Baron Browning. It wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility if he moves him back to inside linebacker.
Oh my God.
And that was kind of an issue that Bo and Johnny have had with Vance, is not knowing where to play guys. So when you bring that into the conversation, you might say that he tries to move Baron back into the inside. And if that's the case,
No.
hello, Shaq. No, I'm not saying that's what he should do. I'm just saying we've got to start thinking about what these guys have told us about Vance.
And that would be...
To be fair, Henry brought up the point that Vance Joseph was the one who did move Hassan Reddick to the outside.
Like that was him.
He started that. He was just late, I guess.
Like he didn't do it the first year. So first 2 years, Hassan Reddick is playing inside linebacker. Vance gets there. He plays inside linebacker. Next year flips him outside. He's 4th in the NFL in sacks.
Yeah.
Goes and gets paid.
Yeah. So it's not all been bad. And I think he'd probably be more likely to have seen Baron Browning at inside and said that guy's probably better fitted outside.
Potentially.
And I would think that Baron Browning's outside regardless, but if they did find a way to bring Matt Patricia in to kind of run like the front seven, then Baron Browning kind of being, because they run that like hybrid 3-4, 4-3 stuff, him being that 4-3 outside linebacker might be the best of both worlds because you get to move him around, use the athleticism in different ways, rush him off the edge. I think that's probably his most natural fit. Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah, I actually agree with you very much. So yeah, Shaq, and then Chauncey Gardner-Johnson.
I don't think you're bringing in Matt Patricia, and then he's going to have that big of a role where he's actually changing your defense into a 4-3 at times and maneuvering. I think they've passed on him in a big role.
I think they probably have too. They haven't named like a run game coordinator though, right? For defense.
No, and
so that would be the title where they would let him do that. Probably.
I don't believe the Broncos have had pass game coordinators, run game coordinators in years, if that's even
at least
ever
formally.
Yeah, at least ever been a part of what they've done.
Okay. Next one is Broncos only. It's nice that VJ says he has no hard feelings against the Broncos for firing him as a head coach, and yet that sort of indicates a lack of competitive fire. I guess that's why they got Sean Payton. There's no lack of competitive fire with Vance Joseph. I had a conversation with him shortly after he was let go, and the competitive fire was certainly there.
What is crazy and impressive in a way is in that Hard Knocks from last year when Vance was on with the Cardinals, he has like a bookshelf of his Boulder things when he was with CU. He has 2 Broncos helmets, Colorado flag things there. You think Nathaniel Hackett has a Broncos helmet in his office or in his home? I'm going to say no.
I bet he does.
You think, I don't know. You think Vic Fangio does?
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't think so. I think those guys, and when you have a shorter tenure where you feel like you were slighted, and Vance Joseph, said that he understood he was the fall man. He really thought it was going to turn around that 3rd season. So I think it's respectable of Vance to have such a business relationship with this game, and it allows him to come back here. I'm not saying Hackett wouldn't come back here in a few years or Vic wouldn't come back here in a few years. I just don't think those guys have as much love for the organization as Vic or Vance does.
For sure. And I mean, he said it. He's lived in Colorado for half of his life.
Right.
It's home for him. And so that definitely makes a difference. I do think that both Vic Fangio and Nathaniel Hackett have their game ball from their first Broncos win, with maybe some sort of other Broncos piece of memorabilia on like their memorabilia shelf.
Man, I think a game ball, sure, because that's personalized too. But like 2 helmets where you're celebrating the team, like
they've got to have such a big trophy case though. It's got to be in there.
He said his wife was wearing Broncos gear last week, or was that his daughter?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like he treats it differently.
Yeah.
And also that was like not just in like a trophy case. That seemed like it was in their living room.
Yeah, but that's where you put it. That's like.
No,
I don't.
I think you kind of
decorate.
have your own office. I think
I would
office
expect
too.
it in the office, but they also had like the Colorado flag art
Yeah.
in Arizona.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, yeah. Colorado's better than Arizona, though.
and he has a home here.
Like, that's
still.
Colorado's better than everywhere.
Briz Baby, well, I agree with that. He says,
That's a
hey,
decent
dudes.
case.
Firstly, I've been absolutely loving the past few pods with all the debating and opposing takes. Hearing
of
the 3 of
debates.
you in disagreement gives us the most interesting takes and diverse perspectives, which makes it one of my favorite pods. I hate listening to podcasts where the hosts are just echo chambers. Love your work. On to my question. Thank you very much, Biz Baby. Says, the VJ hire has given me some concerns, and I need you guys to put my mind at ease. Firstly, Henry explained that Vance's lack of success in Arizona is partly due to the inability of his players to fit his scheme. But to me, that sounds like VJ is trying to fit square pegs into round holes, which is one of the worst things you can do as a coach. Secondly, Zach emphasizes that with Payton, this team will be built on offense, and that's where we should spend our capital. But wasn't that the exact philosophy with Hackett? And wasn't that colossal fail the reason we hired Payton as a CEO type? Help me out here, guys. Cheers, Briz Baby. Your last point, they did not hire Sean Payton to be a CEO type. They hired him to be an offensive mind that can be more of a CEO type than Nathaniel Hackett. But don't get it wrong.
bar is low there.
He is an offensive. He brought him in here to be an offensive guy.
Not an offensive guy, an offensive genius.
Right.
Yep.
Top 5 offensive minds in the NFL right now.
So there's even more investment in the offensive side by hiring Nathaniel Hackett than there was, by hiring Sean Payton than there was even with Nathaniel Hackett.
As for VJ, kind of forcing things, I think you can certainly make that case. I also think that the Cardinals were drafting guys, tweeners, and saying like, make these guys work. And obviously your instinct as a coach is going to be make them work in what I like to do most. Like, should they have maybe designed the entire defense around Isaiah Simmons and said, like, we have to design a defense that just allows him to go be a playmaker? In hindsight, you probably could say that. You also probably say, like, okay, as a coach, they give you a piece. I don't think he, like, blew anyone away in camp. And so then you're like, okay, we have to figure out where this guy fits. To this point, he hasn't really fit anywhere.
Just another question mark is with Zaven Collins. You've also so it's not just
that
one
same guy.
player. It's a different player. And what's concerning though is Vance was there when they drafted both of those guys. So it's not like you have to imagine they talked to their defensive coordinator. You really do think that they talked to him.
Oh, I'm sure they talked to him,
and
but I'm not necessarily sure he said,
get him.
him.
What the plan was going. You would hope so.
You would hope, but it's the Cardinals.
Yeah, sure. There is a chance with
Cliff
that.
Kingsbury.
And one of the things that Bo Brock said yesterday, which is important to remember about, he said the biggest negative with Vance is his ability or inability to develop young players and put them in the right positions to succeed. Now, why that's okay for the Broncos right now, they're not going to have many young players. They're not going to be bringing young players in this year. Next year, I would hope that resources in the draft are going to be used on the offensive side of the ball. But maybe not the best news for Nick Bonito, but also Nick Bonito didn't help himself last year.
But Nick Bonito has a clear role. Like, he's just a pure edge rusher.
Yeah, but he also said help develop younger guys, not just
But
put them
those
in the
guys
right
are just like the
pieces.
tweeners, though. Like those... I'm
just
that's the
saying
issue.
what
True.
Bo said about
True.
developing and then also finding the right spots.
It is a knock on Vance that he wasn't able to be successful, especially with Isaiah Simmons. So I'm not trying to excuse that. What I am saying is the square peg round hole thing. I just think if someone gives you a ball of clay, it's not a square peg, it's a ball of clay, you think, my first instinct is to take this ball of clay and shove it into the round hole to make it fit. For whatever reason, it did not work in that way. So then Vance was left with like, okay, clearly he doesn't work as a inside linebacker for me. So I'm going to have to try something else. And, they were kind of experimenting. I don't know. I guess Isaiah was better this year. But he's yet to, no matter, we'll see. If the next defensive coordinator for them comes in and makes him into a star, you can definitely turn back around and say, okay, Vance didn't know what to do with him and, ruined the first 2 years of his career.
And what they're probably going to do is just play him in zone coverage where he can kind of float there and just be big and long and not have to just run with a slot wide receiver or just blitz straight ahead. And those are kind of the two options because he's really, really good as a blitzer and specifically as like a closer as a blitzer. But in terms of man coverage, it's like, yeah, he's all right against tight ends. But like Bo said, like it's not like he's going up against Travis Kelce and winning. And so when you run a man-heavy scheme, either you change everything to fit him and fit some other players well because like Byron Murphy is just not a man cover or man corner. And that's why I don't think he's going to wind up in Denver. But it would have been good to see him change things. At the same time, I'm not too worried about it because he's coming to Denver where you do have two press man corners in Pat Surtain and Damari Mathis, and you have Justin Simmons. And when you're 80% of the time you're playing a single high safety, you're putting Justin Simmons in the best place. Like those problems just should not translate to Denver, at least how this roster is currently constructed.
And we did talk about this yesterday, and I do disagree. I think it is an indictment on a coach. We've mostly talked about it these past few years on the offensive side of the ball with guys coming in and saying, this is my system, you better fit in or you're going to be out. No, if you want to be a good coach, you have to adapt to the players you had, and he didn't do that at times last year, and we've got on so many coaches in Denver for not doing that.
100%.
Yeah.
I do agree with what you're saying, though, Henry. It's another reason why I kind of want James Bradbury.
He'd be another
heavy,
one. Just more expensive,
CJ, GJ. You could have such a beastly defense.
Totally. And also, again, like being the defensive coordinator for an air raid team is very, very difficult. And like CU fans know better than anyone. Like when you're running a defense and the offense is running 30 more plays than any other team, I think 2 of the last 4 years, the Cardinals have ranked second in the NFL in pace. It just means that you are going to be on the field so much more. And that means, first of all, like it doesn't excuse, like their points per possession are still bad and all that stuff, but it does just totally change the dynamic there. And I think that more than anything is probably why the advanced stats like the Cardinals a lot better than just the raw stats. First of all, there's more plays that lead to bigger totals, but then also just the situations that you're in on those plays. Here's a fun fact. Over the last 4 years, since Vance Joseph left to go to the Cardinals, the Cardinals have averaged ranking 14.75 in the NFL in DVOA. Broncos average 14th, which again doesn't mean that they're equal defenses over the last 4 years, but there are some of those advanced numbers that say like,
It's not that big.
It's not terrible. It's not terrible.
It's average.
Exactly.
It's average.
It's not terrible.
And that's why you take the advanced stats. You can say he's average.
Yeah.
You look at the raw stats, below average. That's why I say he's average to below average.
And we argued for like 40 minutes yesterday, and then you graded him a C, and I graded him a C+.
Don't give away our round table coming up this week.
We both said it earlier.
Yeah, and to your point, my Madden defense right now is getting crushed because I score so fast.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm averaging
That's what
44
happens.
points a game, and like, my poor defense is out there so much.
Yeah, the defense actually got better by the numbers after Kyler Murray went down because they had to play more conservative on offense, which again is something the Broncos have benefited for 4 years because they haven't had a quarterback.
damn, Ryan, you just tried to flex so hard, and Henry just blew it off.
I'm not.
Damn.
Henry
They
almost
heard. They
had
heard
the
it.
comeback of the year last night in Madden.
Yeah.
Someone dropped that in the
I was
comment
down
section.
big.
That was Will Jock. He was down 28-10 and came all the way back to force overtime.
Yeah, 28-10, and he was attempting a 30-yard field goal.
He missed it.
And that was I think that was in the fourth quarter.
No, was it?
I think it was. No, because
How did you score 18?
I beat him 21-3 in the fourth quarter.
Oh, he's kicked a field goal to make it
Dang.
20.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how those numbers line up, but yeah.
I came back from a 9-0 deficit against our guy Spence. I thought that was
Nice.
impressive.
yeah.
Is that 3 field goals or a touchdown and a miss XP?
Oh, 3 field goals. It was 6-0
Wow.
at halftime.
Oh
it was
my
a
God.
miserable game. Do we have time for one more?
Yeah.
Frazier008 says, "What's up, guys? After being a listener for the past few seasons, I finally decided to become a member.
Let's go.
Yeah.
We got him. Got to
Got him.
spread Broncos country all the way out here to Tennessee. I listen to podcasts every day, and this is by far the best Broncos podcast out there. Thank you so much. I like Davis Webb is a sneaky good hire. The Bills give him a lot of praise when it comes to Josh Allen's development, and they were grooming him to become a coach. Dayball loved him so much, he brought him to New York to help Jones like he did Allen. I'd love this hire, and the fact that we get some young guys to bring in fresh new ideas. I believe he has a real shot to be the next Kellen Moore, going straight from player to coach."
This might be the first time that the Broncos really got to flex their pocketbook. Like, they might have just told Davis Webb, like, whatever you're making in New York as the backup, we'll just double it for you to come be our quarterback's coach.
And you don't have to worry about playing anymore. You
Yep.
don't have to worry
Yep.
about your body. You just get
Exactly.
to be a coach,
And
which
get
you're
to
already doing.
Come to Denver.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, you're learning from Sean Payton.
Yeah.
Like you are Sean Payton's quarterback's
And you're
coach.
going to have his touch of approval
Yeah.
to get other
Oh, yeah.
jobs across the league. Yeah, absolutely. And this wasn't the only coach that the Broncos took straight from being a player. They brought Chris Banjo from... where was he? The
Arizona.
Cardinals. The last 4 years, and the 3 years before that, he was with the Saints and Sean Payton. He's their assistant special teams coordinator. He was just a player last year. They're bringing him in as to bring him that guy, and I love it. I
Yeah.
love that they're bringing guys that are younger that can connect with players with a mix of 60-year-olds.
Especially when the coaches are going to be pretty rough on these players. I think that's just kind of assumed. That's been Sean Payton's reputation. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. Like, it's the Bill Belichick and Sean Payton are the last remaining pieces of the Parcells tree, unless you count Dan Campbell, who played for Parcells, and I'm not sure if you do. But when you expect them to come in and, again, work really, really, really hard, no veteran off days, none of that sort of stuff. That's it's good to have some of these younger players to be around and be like, yeah, this is worth it. Let's fight your way through, and not just a bunch of old men saying, yeah, guys, run.
I'll touch wood on this because I hope it's true, but I don't want to jinx it. It's going to be hilarious when the Broncos play all their starters through the preseason next year and then have like much better injury luck throughout the season.
Yeah.
All right, it's
It'd
going
be tough to get worse.
It's going to be very ironic. And actually, last one from M. Moogie94. He has some really good things to say. Howdy, y'all. Off-season pods are so damn good. This current pod lineup isn't like the 92 Dream Team, but more like the 08 Redeem Team.
Redemption.
There
Once
we
again,
go.
the theme.
I haven't laughed this much listening to the pod in a long time, especially earlier this week when discussing DraftKings lines and Zach yelled, "I need more lines." LOL. I was referring to DraftKings Sportsbook. Yeah. As we roll into the weekend.
Yes. He says, anyway, this morning's Athletic article really managed to get everyone to hate on Russ more. I heard a take that essentially was absolving Hackett and coaches from the atrocity of last year. That Hackett was actually passing plays to Russ with 40 seconds remaining, and it was Russ who struggled to relay calls that caused all those delay of games. Are the Jets / Hackett in on this media narrative to absolve themselves of having hired Hackett? Generally confused.
We talked about this when Hackett joined the Jets. There was so much sentiment coming straight from the Jets themselves, and then also coming from a lot of media members that covered the Jets, just about how much the Broncos organization was in shambles last year, and it wasn't Hackett's fault. That's how the Jets are selling Nathaniel Hackett, and you know what? time will tell. Obviously, Hackett was a big role in that. Russ was a big role. George Payton probably should be a big role in that as well. And we'll just see who is the bigger role. If Nathaniel Hackett grooms Zach Wilson into being a great quarterback and everything's great, and the Broncos struggle again and move on from Russ, then it's probably going to be easier to say, okay, it was all Russ. If they struggle out there in New York and Russ succeeds with Sean Payton, then we're going to see probably more Hackett.
And again, for that one in particular, that the calls were getting in on time, and Russell was, I think what they said was he's giving extra directions in the huddle, doing that sort of stuff, just making sure everybody's on the right page. First of all, I wouldn't be surprised if Russell Wilson was the type to say hey, make sure you break this one off just a little bit early, and it did kind of backfire because that does fit. But the point is, they wouldn't write it unless they trusted the person who said it. So somebody who was probably with the Broncos and was very involved with that said that was what was happening. In the story, though, Kendall Hinton, and I think Jerry also mentioned that he didn't really think that was happening, but Kendall said no, I think that's kind of wrong. You trust who you trust. And the one piece I'd throw in there is that Kendall didn't even play in the first game of the season, and that's when that stuff, it slowed down as the season went along. I guess it was the first 3 weeks or so where it really went to a head, and then it kind of dropped off. I don't know. I believe probably 80% of what that story said is basically what happened, and the other 20% is exaggerated or whatever else. It's up to people to believe, but The Athletic wouldn't publish it unless they trusted the sources, and there's also other sources saying other things in there too.
Yeah, and there's also the case of sources framing things in a certain way to make it look better on them.
Yep.
And I would say this article was more so about that one piece of information about trading, about Russ asking those guys to be fired, and then also just for the rest of the country to know what was going on. Why we didn't spend a full show on this is, if you guys have listened to the pod over this past year, you pretty much know everything else. We've been talking about these details and,
for the most part,
like Ryan said, kind of breaking a lot of these stories on this pod. So it wasn't that it's not groundbreaking news for most of these things for Broncos.
It's just
Go ahead.
Just a couple of them where it's The Office. People didn't really go up to The Office, and nobody. It's out of the way. And the former coach or whatever who said, well, if you're going to have the open doors policy, just come talk to me. Why not sit in your locker right next to everybody else? There is some of that stuff where you're oh, we didn't know that for sure, but it does really add up. The fact that The Office was taken away, didn't know that for sure, but it does really line up with the fact that we were all thinking Russ seems to be around a lot more now. I wonder what that's about. There you go. So there are those couple things that just, I don't know, we kind of saw the effects of, and that was more the cause.
I got to say, if I see one more Russell Wilson tell-all article, I'm going to lose my fucking mind.
You're going to lose your freaking mind, because there's going to be another one.
People want to know. People want the clicks.
Find a new slant. We've gone over everything with Russell Wilson last year.
I don't disagree
There
with
was
you.
some new stuff. I enjoyed reading it. I'll say that. I don't know if I could say I'm happy it came out because it leads to whatever other toxic stuff, but I can say that when that came out, I was and I read it and I was oh, that is interesting. That is some information that I am happy to have.
What I just don't like is it's presented as this, bombshell report, when again, one thing was big, but then all these other things are presented. Like Ryan said, we have people, do you know Russell Wilson had his own office? Oh my gosh, just roll your eyes again.
Literally, I went back and found the show. June of last year.
Are you the Count?
Wow.
Damn.
It was actually a really easy search.
I bet it was.
But that June of last year, I said on this show, Russell Wilson has his own office. And I stand by what I said then, which was before we knew Russell Wilson wasn't going to play well this season, which was, this is what happens. Star quarterbacks get special treatment. Well, guess what? He wasn't a star quarterback anymore, so now he doesn't get the special treatment.
Yep, exactly. And you got to play well to earn those things.
Yep.
And thank you, Jerry, for settling the ship and then flying on off to the distance or wherever he went.
Back to his lake house. He's sipping
His
a
lake
cup of
house.
coffee right now, looking over the lake,
Wow.
thinking about his drink of choice for this weekend.
What are the chances we could go do an on-site live show at Jerry Rosberg's lake house?
I think we could.
That would be
He just
so
likes
fun.
to talk so much.
He's
Again, that season, we all loved Jerry. I maybe didn't necessarily think he'd be a great hire to be the next head coach, especially when Sean Payton's out there. But we all really enjoyed Jerry. Jerry also really enjoyed having 20 minutes a day where there's just people asking him questions,
About
and he
football.
gets like, again, you have to think of him as like a grandfather.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what he is. Imagine just like a grandfather who has like a 20-minute Q&A every day. It's
Yeah.
the time of his freaking life.
Yeah.
He would love to have us up
You're
there.
gonna love it when you're sitting by the fire in Montana and your grandkids are like, Papa Henry, Papa Henry. Tell us about Jerry Rosberg. And you're like, oh,
Wow.
this guy. He was basically like an angel who came down.
Exactly.
Instead
He
of
was the
Papa
savior.
Henry, they're going to be calling him by his nickname. Hater Henry, Hater
No,
Henry.
no. There is a campaign brewing. Hater Zach.
It's been shut down. We're on.
Well, I'm about to go make some burners, so you better watch out.
I know no one's ever going to call me a hater.
That's true.
All right. That is going to wrap it up for us this week. I was going to say next time you hear from us, we'll be in Indy, but I don't think that's true.
No,
You'll
I don't
hear
think
from us
so.
one time before we
Oh,
go to
true.
Indy.
Yep.
And Henry, it's your lucky day, man. You're still going.
Hey!
There was an alternate channel, a channel I didn't even know existed.
All right. We'll see you guys next week on the DNVR Broncos podcast.